Hey friends, it's Saturday morning, the 18th day of January, and I'm getting my day started. Sorry if you hear any noise in the background. I've got a fan going over here and laundry in the dryer over there. But I just wanted to say good day to you. I don't know what time you'll be watching this, so good day. It's very gloomy out today. It's a rainy day. And right now it's in the 40s, which is the warmest it's been in a while in the morning. But come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think we're going to have snow on Tuesday and Wednesday, probably very little because we don't get much here in Charlotte and not in South Charlotte where I live. And we're going to have very cold temperatures. I don't think it's going to get out of the 30s, and it's going to start in the teens. So that's cold for us. We've been really, really good. So that's a little chilly for us. So I'm not looking forward to that because my bones just can't handle it. So by the way, my name is Alexis, but Lexi to my friends. And today I just wanted to give a little chit chat about caregivers. You know, there are so many of us who are in the sandwich generation. I know I was a sandwich generation myself. Then I had my mother that I was taking care of and my child that I was taking care of. And so my senior mother and my young child. And that was really, really difficult. But so many of us are in that generation now. And when my mother got sick, I wasn't going to put her in any kind of home or anything. And so she stayed here in the house, and she started deteriorating probably around a little bit before the pandemonium hit. So probably maybe around 2019, 2018-ish is when she started like kind of a little bit of dementia coming on. She didn't want to go out anymore. Her best friend had died. Most of her friends were gone by that time. And so my mom died at 89 in 2021. So this all started maybe when she was 84, 85. And 85, she was very, very sharp, very sharp. But then I just noted little declines, you know, a lot of repetition of her asking questions or things that she couldn't figure out anymore. That she would just kind of stare at and look at. And so being a caregiver to her, it was difficult. My daughter was an adult at that time. Thank God that I didn't have a small child and have to do it. I don't know how families do it when you have small children and you have an ailing parent. I can't even imagine, especially if you're in a single parent home. It's got to be difficult. You know, it takes a village. It really does. And so my daughter worked all day, and then I was home with my mother all day. So making sure that she ate, you know, checking on her because my mom was very independent. So I never really checked on her a lot during the day because I knew she got up early. She would watch TV and doze off a little bit, and then she would come out and she'd chat with me and get a cup of tea. So yes, she would go and get her cup of tea, go back to her room, and you know, she would be fine. We would check in, talk. I would go in her room, sit with her, because she liked her TV shows and stuff. So I didn't bother her much during the day. She was very self-sufficient. But then it got to the point where she couldn't even make her cup of tea anymore. So I would have to go in and make sure that she was breathing. I always did that every morning. Opened her door, made sure she was breathing if she wasn't up and she was okay before I started my day, taking my daughter to work and running errands or going to the doctor, whatever appointments that I had going on for myself. And then I would come, if I knew that I had a lot to do, like especially picking up my daughter and everything, I would make sure that my mom had her tea, something to eat, so that she wasn't sitting and waiting on me to come back home. And so, yeah, you know, and then it got to the point. So, yeah, I would always make sure that mommy had all her things that she needed before I left the house, especially if I knew it was going to take me a while to get back. And she would always call me on the phone to check in and see where I was. If I was on my way home, she would always say, "Are you okay? Are you on your way home?" And then it got to the point where she couldn't even use the phone anymore. Like, she didn't know how to use a phone. She didn't know how to dial it. She wouldn't call me. She had a smartphone. She did not know how to use it, and I used to fuss at her, but then I realized that phone was not easy to use. And then I got a landline put in, because I'm like, it's the same phone that we've had for like 15 years. So I just got a newer one, but it was the same exact phone. I'm like, she knows how to use this phone. She's used it every day, multiple times a day. And we had a line put in and all of that put in for her. And landlines are pretty much obsolete now. Everybody uses a cell phone, and she wouldn't use it. We would call her, the phone would just ring into oblivion. She wouldn't answer. One day I was locked out. I couldn't get in. It was actually not locked out. It was so cold, the door froze. The key wouldn't go in, and I was banging, 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 "Mommy, mommy, mommy," calling her on the phone. The phone rang like literally 100 times. She wouldn't answer, and then she finally came to the door, and I'm like, "Mommy, I've been calling you. You didn't answer. I couldn't get my key in the door." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't hear the phone ring." And so, yeah, so, just things like that. And the phone was right next to her. So things like that. And I don't think she even realized. She probably thought it was on the television. And so, it just got very difficult, very difficult. And finally, she had gotten so swollen up, and she was very thin, very frail towards the end. And her legs were like tree trunks, and her feet. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was hard for her to get in and out of the bed. And still at this time, we didn't know what it was. I thought it was medication, because she did have a medication at one time that had done that. And I'm like, what is going on? And I says, "Mom, this time, you never want to go to the hospital or anything, but this time I think you need to go." And so she said, "Okay." And she walked out on her own fruition. We live on a second floor walk up. She walked down the steps and got into the car, and we took her to the hospital. And that was on Mother's Day of 2021. And she did not come back home. And she passed in June of 2021, June 7th. So it was literally like almost a month before she passed. And that experience of just being a caregiver and everything was so, I cherished that time because we were so close. And I was always her caregiver for my whole life, period, whether she needed me to be or not. But that time is really special to me. So my heart goes out to caregivers, especially of elder parents, or, I've never had to be a caregiver for a special needs child or anything like that. And I'm sure that is just right way up there. And so, yeah, it just made me think today on this like gloomy Saturday about caregiving and how special it's a special time, but a difficult time. It can be a very sad time. And it was for me. And at the time, after in the hospital, she was going through so much. And they're like, I think you need to put her in the hospice. At that time, I was clueless. I mean, you see it on TV. I knew people that had relatives in hospice, but I didn't know that was what a hospice was, where you go to basically live just the end of your life. I didn't know that. You just go there to be comfortable. And I just knew that she was going to come home. And I'd asked the doctor one day, so what do we do? When is Mom going to come home? And the doctor looked at me very point blankly, and she's like, "Your mother's not coming home." And that was a wake up call to me. Like, my head just blew off. And I'm like, what? So, yeah. And that was a very special time in hospice. We met a long lost relative. One of my cousins from the Bronx was working at the hospice here in South Charlotte, North Carolina, where my mother was. Never knew it. And she kept seeing she would tend to my mother, and she's like, "I have an aunt named Jewel, and I don't know anybody else with that name." My mother's name was Jewel, but I never saw her. And then everybody had unmasked. So, and we were both adults now in our 50s. She's a year or two older than me. So she was, I think, almost getting ready to be 60 or 60. And here I am getting ready to be 57. Like, our faces have changed, our bodies have changed. We haven't seen each other since we were literally, I believe, 12 and 13 or 14 years old. And that was special. I just wish that my mother was coherent to understand that, to know that that was her little niece. Yeah, I think that would have just. So that was comforting to know that she was there watching over my mother. Once we realized it, and as soon as I went in the next day, and so her name was so familiar to me because I'm like, I don't know anybody with that name. My cousin has that name. Her name is Robin. And one of the nurses who tended to my mom said, we have a nurse here named Robin, and she thinks she's related to you. I'm like, and she's my Uncle Buddy's daughter. And they said, yeah, she told us to tell you that her father's name is Buddy. And I'm like, I knew it right then and there. I just busted out crying. I couldn't believe it. That was a godsend. That was God telling me that I did the right thing. I put my mother in the right place with people there who loved her, with a family member there. Who would have thunk? I mean, this is stuff that you see on television, you know? It was so endearing. So, yeah, my heart goes out to caregivers today, especially with all the things going on in Southern California and the things going on overseas with the ceasefire, and hopefully those hostages will start being released, and they're going to need so much care and love, and my heart goes out to everybody in that situation. So that's my little Lexi talk for today. I hope you have a fabulous day wherever you are. I hope that it's a beautiful, beautiful day for you and you're happy. I'm proud of you. And as always, love you plenty. Deuces.